I really don't know why I chose to wear a sweater outside because I'm still in Florida. It's really, really hot. Hey everyone, it's Amber Lily, and today I'm kind of kicking off my channel for real. So the theme of today's video is honestly the theme for my entire channel, and it's about living authentically. I'm going to talk about what that means to me, my own personal experience, things you can do to get there, and why it's important. I have a few notes. I'm going to be reading off of those because I just want to give you guys exactly what was coming out of my consciousness when I was thinking about this. But when I think about living authentically, I think of a genuine, raw, truthful path. I think of pushing past fear and societal pressures and listening to your intuition. Not giving up when things get challenging because you're being prepared to live out the life that your soul desires. Don't ignore responsibility, but don't ignore your spirit either. So when I graduated high school, I had no idea what to do. I hadn't even applied to any universities or colleges. I didn't even know what the heck I was supposed to be doing. I enrolled at, it's technically a state school, but it was a community college for the longest time. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to work in nonprofit somehow, so we kind of Frankenstein my own major to be like nonprofit management. Really quick in the first semester, I was like, this is not what I want to do, because it was mostly general education courses anyways. I remember taking Anatomy and Physiology 1, and I took that in high school and I loved it. I loved science and I loved the human body especially, and I loved anything medical. And so I was taking Anatomy and Physiology 1. Within the second semester of college, I dropped out. I just stopped going to class because I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't finding my passion at school anymore. I wanted to drop out and become a cosmetologist. Doesn't mean anything against cosmetologists. I appreciate you guys so much for helping us all feel like queens, okay? I just think it's crazy because, like, where I'm at now, and I'm like, that's what I wanted to do? Really? Why? So after a while of not being in school anymore and just working, I was like, I think I want to be a nurse. Like, I want to be in the medical field. Being a doctor takes too long, so I guess I'll just be a nurse, because I just wanted to learn all the science behind the human body and learn how to heal people. That's what I wanted to do. So right then and there was my first inkling. And it's funny because that healing aspect and this side of medicine was very close to where my path was supposed to be. So when I came back to school, I did really well. I got straight A's, especially in all my science classes, and I enjoyed being at school. I studied and I worked hard. However, there still felt like something was missing, and I actually got introduced to acupuncture. That's a whole other story, and herbal medicine, and it was always something that I was kind of interested in, but I had never really tried it myself, and I saw amazing results with acupuncture, and I'm going to have a video about my acupuncture story and my introduction to it. And I remember looking at all the certificates on the wall and the degrees that she got, and I was like, oh my god, maybe I want to do this. So I started looking at schools in Florida, and there was one in Gainesville, which is close to where I live, but I really didn't want to live in Gainesville. If you've ever been to Gainesville, or if you've gone to school to UF or anything, you'll kind of understand why. So I was dating this guy at the time who I thought I was like going to be with for the rest of my life. And I remember looking at Chinese medicine schools in Hawaii and Vancouver, and I'm from Vancouver, like I've kind of sort of talked about before. And there was one on the island off the west coast of Vancouver, which is like where I feel very alive. That is like my place. And I knew I wanted to either do the one in Hawaii or the one in Vancouver. And I remember he was just defeated about it because I was going to be moving away, and he wasn't doing anything with his life, to be honest. Like, he really wasn't. He just didn't know what he wanted to do. He was lazy. He didn't care. And so I felt like I was kind of leaving a part of me behind in order to be able to stay with him. Anyways, I decided to shut that dream down because I got really scared, because it looked like the only school I could go to was in Gainesville, and their program is accelerated, so I wouldn't have time to work, wouldn't have time to do anything, and that freaked me out because I was like, I'm not going to be able to pay rent or do anything like that. So I decided not to go, and I decided to become a theater teacher, which again, I have a theater background and I love it and I'm good at it. So I started studying theater at the state school I was at, or like the community college state school I was at, and transferred to Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, which is beautiful, a beautiful campus. Like, holy crap. Anyways, while I'm in Flagler, I'm in the theater program, I'm doing pretty good, and I am learning a lot and becoming a way better actress and just preparing myself to enter the world of professional theater when I graduate. However, during my second semester there, I started to feel that thing again where I just did not feel like this was it. Like, I loved it, and I was taking creative writing, and I was working on my book, and I was writing a lot of poetry and doing open mic nights, and I started to feel more fulfilled in my creative side, but there was still something missing. I even decided to add a coastal environmental science minor on to my other minor, and my major, so that I could get some sort of science something to feel like I was being a little more fulfilled. And then I went on tour as a professional Irish dancer out of nowhere, which is again another story. And I dropped out of school after that. Well, I finished the semester, and I never came back. I started working at an acai truck in St. Augustine, making smoothies and acai bowls every day, and I loved it. But I really did kind of feel stuck. And someone had a conversation with me that I appreciate now, but at the time was really hurtful. But they just said, what are you doing with your life? You need to quit the truck, go back to school, like do something, like you're being lazy, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't necessarily being lazy, I was just stuck in stagnation. And I wasn't feeling inspired, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, I'll just be a professional dancer, like my whole life, I guess. I had lucked out on this tour, and now I have a steady job through them, like every few months. But in that downtime, I just work at a truck. So, that conversation was really hurtful, and I remember just being so angry. But later, I remember talking to my dad about it and talking about Chinese medicine, and he stopped me. He said, I haven't heard you talk about that in a long time. What brings that up? And I'm like, to be honest, it's something that I've still wanted to do for a long time, but when I was with that person, I felt like I couldn't do it. So, I started looking at schools again, and I found the one on the island, and I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I need to do this. So I kept it quiet for a few months. I didn't go and tell a bunch of people. I told the people in my circle. And they were like, yeah, like, Amber, do it. It makes sense. And so then I committed, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I got a job that I hated for a few months to try and save up. I moved back in with my mom. And then all of a sudden, as I started to align with my true path, things started to work out better. I got a better job. I'm making a lot more money. Things in my relationship are, like, so much better. Relationships with my family and friends are better. I genuinely just feel happier because I feel like I'm, like, on track. I do feel impatient sometimes, so, like, that's a thing. I'm able to travel, like, I'm going to Ireland at the end of the month if I can get my passport in time. And even, like, my cousin who lives up in Alberta was talking to me, and she was like, yeah, I'm moving to the island, and I'm gonna need a roommate, haha, like, joking. And I said, well, I was thinking of moving to Vancouver, but there was a school on the island that I really do want to go to. And she was like, well, move down. So I already have a roommate who's my cousin, whom I love. Like, she's amazing. And we come to find out we're so similar. And now I really feel like I am aligning myself with what I want to do. I'm excited. I looked through all the classes I have to take, and every single one gets me excited. Like, there's not one where I'm like, oh, that'll be boring, but, like, you gotta do it. Like, literally every single class that I have to take is mind-boggling and how excited I am. So I'm getting a dual diploma in acupuncture and phytotherapy. But when I let go of fear and just a safety net that I had, and I really started to step into what my authentic path was and what my soul really desired, things started to work out to further that. And I remember thinking that life should mimic art, and good creative art. Like, the art that I've enjoyed the most is what the creator wanted. It's what they envisioned. And it wasn't what would appeal to the reader or the viewer or the audience or whatever. They had a vision, and they let it go through them. and it breathes life into this creator. So we need to be the artists and creators of our lives. I want you to brainstorm these 4 elements in your life and write these down. So number 1, what grounds you? Like, what recenters you? For me, it's spending time with my family. Sometimes for some people, family is like the least centering thing ever, and I get that. But my family is very centering, and every time I'm with them, I feel grounded when I leave. What are things you love to talk about? I'm a talker. That's why I'm on here. To be honest, I've wanted to be on YouTube since high school, and like that's just something that I felt very pulled to do for a very long time, and now I'm finally doing it. So this is just, again, in line with my path. But what do you love to talk about? You know, there's some people that talk a lot, or they don't, but there's always one subject that it's like as soon as someone brings it up, you take over a conversation because you know things about it, you love talking about it, something that interests you. So what do you love to talk about? What renews you? What cleanses you? What makes you cry tears of joy? Like, what are things that you do and you're like, I just feel like a renewed human being? Like the first time I ever did hot yoga, that's how I felt. I left and I felt like I had been baptized. I don't know. But what makes you feel brand new? And the 4th and last question is, what ignites your passion? What sets your soul on fire? If you notice, all 4 of these questions call into the elements earth, air, water, and fire. But when I was writing these down and it came into my mind, I was like, no, this is necessary. Like, what grounds you? Earth. What do you love to talk about? Air. What cleanses and renews you or gets you emotional? Water. What ignites your passion and sets your soul on, fire? Be silent and listen to what your soul wants, what your soul desires, like really aches for. Sometimes we like to stuff it down, and there's so much noise going on in here and out here that the soul doesn't even bother to talk for a bit until you're listening. So once you hear it speak, write it down. Like stream of consciousness, just uninterrupted, write it down. Or sing it, play it, animate it, draw it, paint it, film it. I don't freaking know. Tattoo it if you want. Oh God, if I get messages from like people's parents being like, you told my daughter to tattoo her body, I'm gonna 2019 is gonna be a year of authenticity. Are you ready? Because I totally am.